Okay, we are going to review what you're going to be learning in Chapter 4. The first lesson in Chapter 4 is evaluating algebraic expressions. There are two things you have to remember. Step 1 is you first substitute the variables for the number they represent. And step 2 is you follow order of operations, which is PEMDAS. Just to refresh your memory, the P stands for parentheses. The E stands for exponents. The M and the D stands for multiplication and division. Remember, with these two operations, you go from left to right. You don't always do multiplication first. The same thing with the A and the S. That stands for addition and subtraction. Again, you go from left to right. You don't always do addition first. So now we're going to do some practice problems. Example 1. If x equals -2 and y equals 21, let's simplify the expression 6x plus 2y. The first thing we're going to do is substitute. 6x means 6 times x. So 6 times -2. You can use the dot or you can use the parentheses. Bring down that plus sign. And then we have 2 times y, and y is 21. Again, you can use the dot or you can use the parentheses. Now we follow PEMDAS. There are no parentheses. There are no exponents. So we're up to multiplication and division. And again, you go from left to right. So I'm going to multiply 6 times -2, which is -12. Everything else comes down. I still have multiplication. Bring down that -12. A positive 2 times 21 is a positive 42. So now I'm done with multiplication and division. The next step is your addition and subtraction. A -12 plus 42 is 30. And that's your answer. Example 2. If x is 12 and y is 20, let's simplify the expression x minus 4 squared plus y divided by 2. First thing we're going to do is substitute. So x is 12. Bring down the -4. Bring down the parentheses and the squared plus parentheses. Y is 20. Bring everything else down. Now we're going to follow PEMDAS. If it helps you, write the word PEMDAS on the side to use as a check-off list. So the first thing we do is parentheses. So 12 minus 4 is 8. Everything else comes down. And we can do the second set of parentheses at the same time. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Now there's nothing left to do inside the parentheses. So now I'm going to go ahead and do exponents. 8 squared means 8 times 8, which is 64. Everything else comes down. So now I'm done with my exponents. There are no multiplication and division, so I'm left with addition and subtraction. 64 plus 10 is 74. And that's your answer. We're now getting to example 3. If x equals -3 and y equals 4, simplify the expression x squared plus 3y. First step is to substitute your variables with the numbers. X is -3. So instead of the x, I'm going to substitute the -3. Now it's important here, whenever you're substituting a negative number raised to an exponent, you need to put that negative number in parentheses. Because if you have negative 3 squared and you have negative 3 in parentheses squared, you have two different answers. Negative 3 squared, the exponent is attached to the 3 only. 3 squared is 9, and then that negative sign comes over. In the second example, the exponent is attached to the parentheses, so it goes to everything inside. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. So those parentheses change it. So again, remember, whenever you're substituting a negative number raised to an exponent, always use parentheses. Bring down the plus sign, bring down the 3. 3y means 3 times y. So you can use parentheses or you can use the multiplication dot. So it's 3 times 4. Now we follow PEMDAS. Inside parentheses, there's nothing. So we go to exponents. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. Bring everything else down. Now we're going to do the multiplication. Positive 3 times 4 is a positive 12. Bring everything down. And then you get your answer of 9 plus 12 is 21. If you're going to get confused with that negative number raised to an exponent, you could change the problem from x squared. You can write it as x times x plus 3y. And then x is negative 3. So we have negative 3 times negative 3 plus 3 times y is 4. And then you can go ahead and follow PEMDAS. Multiplication, bring everything else down. Multiplication, bringing everything else down, and you get your answer. So if it helps you to write the exponent out instead of as an exponent, writing it x times x and then substituting, you can do that method as well. The last example, example 4, x is negative 5, y is negative 6, n equals 4. Simplify the given expression. The first thing we're going to do is substitute. N equals 4, parentheses, 3 times x equals negative 5 minus 2 to the 4th, parentheses, all over 3 times negative 6, because y is negative 6. Keep it in fraction form. Do not rewrite this going horizontally. PEMDAS. Inside the parentheses, we have a bunch of different operations. We have to follow PEMDAS inside the parentheses. So the first thing we're going to do is the exponents. 4 parentheses, 3 times negative 5, minus, and then 2 to the 4th power is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. Everything else comes over. Still inside parentheses, there's no more exponents, so I'm going to do multiplication. 4 times, 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Bring everything else down. All over 3 times negative 6. Still inside parentheses, we have negative 15 minus 16, which is negative 31, all over 3 times negative 6. Now we can do the multiplying in the numerator and the multiplying in the denominator at the same time. 4 times negative 31 is negative 124. Over 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Now we're going to go ahead and do the division. And the two negatives are going to cancel each other out. Now when you do this division, you're going to get 6.88888888, and it's repeating. Nowhere in the directions does it say to round, and you can't use a repeating bar for an answer. So we have to make that into a fraction. You should know automatically if the 8 is repeating, that means the 8 is going in the numerator, and you're going to have a 9 in the denominator. If you didn't know that, on your calculator, when you have that repeating decimal, you can hit second PRB equals, and they'll change it to a fraction. We will go over any questions you have on this on Monday. Make sure you took notes on this and you have this in your binder, because this is your first set of notes, and then on Monday we're just going to practice with it. If you have any questions, make sure to ask. Thank you.